Hi. So how to write an office in Java in 30 days. And today we're going to talk about CSV support. We're going to add CSV support to our spreadsheet. And this is day 9. So we're going to do, as I said, CSV support, and we're also going to see how to add and remove rows to the spreadsheet. So CSV support, you have different Java library to read and write CSV files. You have Java CSV, Open CSV, and Super CSV. And the library that I'm going to use to read and write CSV file is going to be H2 CSV. So I've already using the H2 database for the database part of Joeffice. So there is within this database also a utility class to write and read files using CSV. So it's a bit more database oriented, but I can use it also to read and write in the spreadsheet. So we need to add first a new file type support. This file type is of my time text CSV, and we're going to put it all the thing in a specific package. So text CSV file will only at the beginning going to support CSV extension. Sometimes the extension can also be text, but we're just going to start with CSV. So for this, we need to handle CSV file just like a spreadsheet. So we saw for XLS and XLS6 formats that we were using the workbook factory to create a workbook. Here, to create a workbook, we're just using a special class that we created, which is a small CSV reader that will read the file and that will create a workbook from it. Why a smart CSV reader? Because when you open a CSV file within Office, most of the time it needs to ask you, oh yes, but what is the encoded format? And then, oh yeah, what are you using for a separator? Is it comma? Is it tabs? Or what are you using for escaping? Is it single quotes, double quotes, and so on? Well, all this information is already in the file. So if you read the file, actually even really visually looking at it, you can already say, okay, this one is tab delimited, or it's, for example, dot comma delimited. And you can also see which character is used for escaping. You can also more or less understand that if you have problem to read the file, that it's not the correct file encoding. So this smart CSV reader will start to read the file, and then it will detect what is the delimiter, what is separator, so that you don't have a pop-up asking you for all these things. So this one is using the CSV class from H2. And then we're adapting everything from detecting the charset of the file to detecting. So this is done by reading the file and try to catch exception if it has problem reading the file with using a specific charset. Then it has delimiters detection. So it will look, it will count actually how many tabs is there in a line, how many commas, how many dot commas, and from there it will deduce that, well, all the lines has exactly this number, which is quite important, of tabs. So the tabs is probably, the tab character is probably the separator of this file. Actually, even visually, you can already see from here. All the lines have exactly 9 commas and 0 tabs. So what is the separator? Is it tab or is it commas? Of course, it's commas. So reading a file. So as I said, it's based on H2 CVS, so CSV, sorry. I'm probably going to do the mistakes more than once. So using H2 CSV, so we got a result set. So we need to go through all the result set and get all the columns one by one. And then we just store it in a workbook, creating rows and creating cells. So it's just text cells from now. If we detect that it's a number, sorry, if we detect that it's a number, then we actually put it as a cell value as a number, otherwise we put it as text. Now also writing a file. So writing a file, we go also through all the rows of the spreadsheet, because maybe someone has edited the file, and then we get the value as string of each cell, and then we write it to the result set with the method add row. And then the CSV library, we just write it into the output stream. Now, instead of doing a copy-paste for loading and saving the file, what we just do for this one is we just extend the XLX6 data object. That's something that we already have done for the XLS format. Now we're doing it also for the CSV. And it's in the load method that we saw earlier, that the object will detect if it's a CSV file and load it correctly. Now we need also to adapt the workbook, because when we write to the output, we need the method, the old method that we were using for XLX and XLX6 format, the Excel format. We're calling the write method. Unfortunately, this method is final, and what we want is to write using another way. So as we're using our CSV workbook is using XSSF workbook to create rows and to create cells, we are just adding another method to write the output within as a text format. And here we have our first CSV file open within our Office suite. Notice it detects the quotes, it detects the numbers and text. So now we're gonna also need to add rows. So for this way, it's quite easy, because the Power library has a method which allows to shift rows. So what we need to do to add a row, we just shift the rows beneath the rows that we want to add from 1. So we just have one method to the data model that will shift the rows. And of course, we need to fire a table row inserted to our table model to notify the UI that a row has been inserted. So for this, we need also to add an action. So it can be a button within a toolbar or within the menu, for example. This action will get the data model, and it will call the insert row from the rows that are selected. Now the remove rows method, it's also something quite similar. Instead of shifting down the rows, we need to shift up the row that are below the row that we want to delete. And I've implemented the method also that if you select multiple rows, that it also will delete the multiple rows selected. So here, when you delete a row, you don't want to start from the first row to the last row, because you're also shifting the row that you later want to delete. And then your index may be lost. For example, if you select row 1 and 3, if you delete first row 1, then you can't delete row 3, because row 3 became row 2 when you deleted row 1. I hope you follow me, but this is, so what we need to do is just to first delete the last row and go back to the last selected row, and go back to the first selected row. So that's why we are doing a loop from the last one to the first selected rows. And then we shift one by one. Now we also need to add an action for it. And the action, actually, we added it to the right click on the row header. This is more practical to have than instead of a menu, just because you've just selected the rows within the row headers. Now you just need to right click and do insert row or delete rows. So how to get a menu pop-up on row headers? We'll see it later, today. So just also one more thing I haven't talked about is I just also wanted to have automatic column ajuster. What does that mean? That when you're loading a CSV file, of course you have data that contains only a few characters, for example, the numbers, but if you have one column having the addresses, then you need a larger column. And what you want is when you're loading the CSV file to adjust automatically. So here is a link that will show a special class to automatically adjust the column to the data. And if I say that the default column width is -1, then I will call this class to automatically resize the columns. I've adapted it a bit, so if you want to look, just look later when I will release the source code, because I wanted to leave also the very small columns or the empty columns actually as they were, because otherwise all the empty columns that comes after the CSV file would be reduced to the minimal. And now also another thing we also I also used today to improve the cell renderer. But we had the problem that when we were rendering, for example, the color, then we do set foreground to red, for example, then we go to the next cell. The next cell doesn't have any color specified, but as it's reusing the same object, the cell renderer is reusing again the same object, then the foreground is automatically red, which causes some problems. So here we always set the foreground and background color to a default cell renderer, which is what we call a default cell, and we always use it as basis for the colors, but also for the font and so on. So here we have now a better implementation where you see that the selections stop correctly, that the colors also stop correctly at the rows, and so on. So, well, thank you for watching how to write an office in 30 days in Java. Hope you enjoyed the videos and the other videos. Bye.